Hello, I'm a professional HR specialist. I love interviewing people and matching the right employee with the right employer. I specialize in strategic HR and managing personal issues. My best advices for your interview? Just smile, be yourself, and your recruitation would be a piece of cake. Hello and welcome back to Pola Accent Maker, your professional accent coach. Today we are still continuing your favorite series of films about business English words. And the topic for today is HR. So this field of business that everybody has or will have in the future some contact with. So it doesn't matter if you work in HR or simply you work in any other business field, most probably HR sooner or later is going to enter your life. So let's go through the most popular and frequent HR words. So our very first word is this one. And as you could hear in my parody, very often people pronounce it like recruitation because, for example, in Polish it's rekrutacja. However, in English we say recruitment, recruitment. So what happens? You don't say re, you say re, then you have crew, and then you reduce the ending, mint, recruitment. In the fast speech, you can actually drop this middle T and say recruitment, recruitment. And in the American accent, we say recruitment, recruitment. So it's a very similar pronunciation. In our example, this recruitment process was very tough. This recruitment process was very tough. And let's talk about our keyword or keywords. You can say HR, and this is what majority of people would say, but don't be surprised if you hear in some dialects HR. You can say H, you can say H. It stands for human, that's the first word. It's not human, it's not human, it's human, human. You reduce the ending, human. And when it comes to the second word, you have a couple of different options. You can say resource, resource, so human resources. You can also say resource, so human resources with S. Or sometimes you can say resource, resource, stressing the first syllable. And this is actually a very typical American pronunciation because in the American accent we stress the very first syllable, re, and then we have very strongly colored resource, resource, so human resources. But in the other American accent versions, you can also hear something very similar to the British accent, so resource, resource, stressing the second syllable and having Z, resource, and a very colored R, resource, or resource, resource. So all in all, we have three options. We have resource, stressing the first syllable. We have resource, stressing the second syllable with Z, or we have resource, stressing the second syllable with S, exactly like in the British accent. Resource, resource, or resource. Human resources, human resources. In our next word, it's not interview, it's interview. So what happens? You pronounce int and you reduce t. You don't have ta or ter, but you say t. Interview, interview. In the American accent, we say enter with ter, still reduced syllable, but with stronger, but reduced syllable, ter, view, interview. However, many Americans will skip this T and they will say interview, 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 interview. And another very important word, it's employer, employer. You stress the second syllable and you reduce the beginning. It's employer. However, it can also happen that you will hear that people say employer, so they still stress the second syllable, but they pronounce M, employer. So it's employer or employer, but please bear in mind that the second option is definitely much less frequent. And in the American accent, we say employer, so we have M, we stress second syllable, and we articulate relatively strongly final R. Employer, employer. But it can also happen that you will hear employer with E, employer. But again, I need to tell you that it's not such a frequent version of pronunciation. And how about this word? You might be a little bit surprised because I think you're mostly acquainted with the pronunciation that goes like employee or employee. However, the most frequent pronunciation of this word is employee. Employee, so you stress the second syllable, plo, exactly the very same way you stressed employer, employer, employee, employee. That's the most popular English pronunciation of this word, employee. We can also hear employee, so analogically to employer, you can also pronounce it with the initial M, employee. However, it's not so frequent. And a definitely less frequent pronunciation is the one that is usually taught at Polish schools, which is employee, employee. And we have the very same story with the American accent, so we say employee, employee, or employee. Employee, still stressing plo, so the second syllable, employee or employee. And definitely less frequently employee, employee, which is also something that even relatively famous dictionary will show you. And another one, a very popular and useful word which means in Polish podwładny. And we don't say subordinate as I usually hear, but we say subordinate. Subordinate, you reduce the beginning, it's not sa. You stress the second syllable and you reduce the ending. It's subordinate, subordinate. Or in the American accent, we say subordinate, subordinate. And another one, used super frequently in business. It's not performance, but it's performance, performance. So we reduce the very beginning, we say p, then we stress for, and then reduce the ending, means performance, not month, performance. And in the American accent, we say performance. Performance, we reduce it again. Performance. And relating to it expression is something which is also very often used in especially corporate environments, so-called KPIs. KPIs or KPI stands for Key Performance Indicators. Key Performance Indicators. And in the American accent, we say Key Performance Indicators. Key Performance Indicators.
This subordinate's performance will be verified by his employer. Or, this subordinate's performance will be verified by his employer. Did you find this film useful? Great, but it was only less than 40% of what I've prepared for you. Would you like to get the remaining 60%? It will soon be available in my online course about pronunciation for business. Follow my Facebook, Instagram and newsletter for details about the course. Let's take your English to another level. Stay tuned. Pola Accent Maker, your professional accent coach.